Well, this fucking thing. Did I ever tell you? Oh, I don't feel like signing. I'm not even on the internet right now. It's an optical illusion. So, did I ever tell you guys I had some pen pals from Sweden? Isn't that where the hives come from? It's me, Jay, today. And like I say, I'm not online. It's an optical illusion. You know, what is online? Is it the internet itself, or is it the particular .com that you hang out at? I wonder. I wonder. I don't know anymore. Here, this works. You know, I know my microphone sucks on this computer. It's all right, but I know it picks me up better when I'm parallel with it. I've noticed that in the videos that I've like contributed to the internet. I don't know if I ever told you. I think the hives are from Sweden. I think, if I remember correctly, I think that's where the Swedish techno mafia comes from too. You've ever listened to those guys? You know what? It's no big deal. I don't know why. When I was a little kid, I thought it would be more fun to learn French than Spanish. Granted, I did have a lot of peer pressure to learn Spanish. It's kind of like what my father's side of the family spoke fluently, except he was the most fluent of them all. He knew like more than Spanish. I don't think he knew Swedish. Jorgen Borgen, Jorgen Borgen. Yeah, he knew French a little bit. He could converse easily. I saw him do it anyway. Long time ago. You know, this pen pal that I had, his name was Reggae. I think that's the way you say it. It looked kind of like Reggie. And, you know, it was snail mail, and it was really slow to communicate. Like, I think we only did like a few letters a month. And he was a nice kid. He sent me a calendar for Christmas, I think it was. Maybe it was my birthday. It's probably Christmas. I don't think he knew when my birthday was. You know, I was like a preteen. You know, I guess it was during video games and more. It had to have been because I didn't really start. Okay, I found him on the computer. This is like an internet website to find snail mail pen pals, right? And like I said, the snail mail was kind of a disappointment, though I still have the calendar that he sent me. It has a lot of photographs of Sweden, like Reykjavik and Stockholm. And I just thought, like, I hate the cold. I've been to Mount Lemon. It's just the coldest spot that you can get to around. It's like that away. Anybody seen my shoulder sling? I was supposed to go to physical therapy today, but I blew it off because those guys, I don't think those guys understand how bad my back is. I've been going there to that place up that street, up that way. I've been going there for like over 10 years, I'm pretty sure. And I thought that they had my records. I thought they knew who I was. I've been there for my shoulder. I've been there for my back. Like, this wasn't my when I got my procedure, my arthroscopic procedure, as if you care, no, I'm not going to be that way because I'm not talking to anybody and I'm not online right now. I'm not addressing anybody. This is just like me using the cloud because I don't have enough hard drive space to keep a journal. So, and nobody's going to watch this anyway. So, but anyhow, yeah, man, I had that arthroscopic procedure from my gifted doctor, and he fixed my labrum, my torn labrum. Apparently, what I'm going through, according to my mother, I guess she understands it better than me, because when I had the skateboard accident, on the quarter pipe, it was considered a rotator cuff AC joint injury. Okay, and when Dr. Siegel fixed my labrum, I didn't even know I had a labrum problem. He was able to tell from the scan that it was hanging on by a thread. You know, a thread. My labrum was hanging on by a thread. It was a pretty serious injury. And the fucked up thing about that is when I first got it and got diagnosed with the AC cuff rotator joint injury, they didn't notice the labrum tear. I think they were looking at an x-ray or something. Didn't notice. So they made me do all these push-ups over at the physical therapy building, which was in a complex right by St. Mary's Hospital over on the west side of Tucson, kind of where I grew up. St. Mary's is kind of Barrio Hollywood. Hollywood! Hollywood! Where all the Hollywooders hang out. They're kind of like a street gang, but they're not like as bad for the community as the Bloods and the Crips, right? It's a little bit more neighborhood community as opposed to the Bloods and the Crips, which is kind of like a virus that spread across the nation, if you would think of it that way. Kind of like MS-13, the Sorreños, the Narcos. Wonder how El Chapo is doing these days. I'm curious. His kids are basically considered, especially the oldest, I guess, is considered a genius for having laced all the narcotics with fentanyl. Killing their own customers is genius? Yeah, because it gets you addicted and strung out even more so than you already would be. They're just sloppy and put too much fentanyl in. Or maybe they didn't anticipate just how voracious and how hungry the United States drug addicts are for drugs. They just do it up until they die. Anyway, so yeah, and nobody has a tolerance for that stuff. Except I did for 15 years. So if I ever did do anything illegal while I was out partying, well, I was okay. But everybody else was okay too, so I think sometimes I was kind of like a guinea pig. Because my band members and stuff knew I took fentanyl patches. It's like you could see them. If I ever took off my shirt, it's a very difficult thing to explain, like to a girlfriend. I mean, like if you have to tell them the truth, you can't like cover it up. It. You know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, I guess I was a guinea pig a couple times, but I don't know what good that is because, yeah, like I just said, I had a tolerance to it. It's like I probably could have done the drugs and lived, but I guess it was a friendly thing to do, and it's kind of like being the king's advisor or taster. And The king's like, make sure this isn't poisoned, JJ. Oh, okay. I don't think it is, king. All right, I'll eat. And so what? I don't know, dude. It's just where I grew up, the west side of town, and fucking I went to physical therapy, and they made me do all these push-ups. Like they hurt, so they let me do them on my knees. You know, like what they call girly style push-ups, which didn't do a whole lot for my sense of masculinity. You know, just a few short years prior to that, my father had gotten upset with me. I've told you this story, but I'm not talking to anybody. I'm just reminding myself, you know, that he basically called me a little girl when he told me to go put on a bra and panties if I'm going to side with my mother when they have their domestic disputes. You know, like he was a drama king, even, I don't know who's worse, him or me. You know, I know how to make a scene, and I don't try to. I think he used to try to, and it was just his birthday, like what, yesterday or 2 days ago? What fucking day is it? Like I give a shit. Anyhow, I think that's fucked up that they had me doing strenuous activities and exercises when my labrum was hanging on by a thread. It seems reckless. That doesn't sound like health care. That sounds like health damage, doesn't it? But I did it, and it hurt the whole time, and it never made me recover. It never made me any stronger. I've told you guys, I spent my entire life, when I would take somebody to the movies, they sat to the left of me, because that's what you do when you go to the movies. You snuggle, because that's what people do. It's not abnormal. Anyways, and it was so nice to get my arthroscopic procedure that fixed me up. Where is my damn sling? I'm in clean here. This place is trash, and I can't clean it. My arm is fucked. Anyways, it's cool, man. It's cool. I'm trying to talk about Sweden. So, but it was around that time period when I got that shoulder injury, and when I had a pen pal named Reggae in Sweden. I was gonna call him Reggie. I think my father told me that Reggae would be the proper way to pronounce its name. And, you know, he had brown hair. He was skinnier than me. Looked like he was probably taller, but seemed like a really good kid. On the calendar, it showed many, 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 many snowy buildings, lots of cityscapes, and lots of snow. And I'm not really the snow compatible person. I suppose if I dress appropriately, I am. But, you know, I just felt like I had some kind of a gravitational pull to Sweden at that age. Like I was telling you, and also I told you I'd rather speak French. I made that decision, but I never got to learn French. I dropped out of middle school, and that wasn't part of my homeschool curriculum. I tried to learn Spanish from Muzzy El Grande. Estoy listo, listo, computadora. Oh, Muzzy El Grande, mucho. It was like a cartoon. It was like expensive. I think they spent like $70 on it back in the 80s when I got that McDonald's commercial that was all Ya Llego, Navita, la 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 la. Eh, eh, eh. Yeah. And McDonald's, the internet. It's on the internet. Yeah, and I'm talking to myself. And so what? Well, you know, I decided that good old Reggie was a pretty cool kid, but the whole snail mail thing, I just couldn't do it. The postage, I mean, like, you know, that it was just like, There were hurdles that I didn't need. And I probably should have asked him if he had an email address. I probably should have asked him that in the very first snail mail message I sent, where I'm like, "Hi, I'm JJ. I play video games and skateboard. I also like rock music, and I come from the desert of the United States called the Sonora Desert. I'm in whatever grade, probably like sixth, but of course I don't know if I told him I was a dropout, you know? And so what? Well, we lost touch because I was a sloppy little kid and just like, couldn't do the snail mail thing. But I found a pen pal that on an email pen pal, because that was my first pen pal, and I always wanted one. I don't know why. It just seemed like a nice creative way to have a friend. All right. And I always thought, I guess I saw it in cartoons, and I thought it looked like an interesting something, activity. I'm like, wow, making friends with a stranger, best friends with a stranger, that's crazy. How does that even work? Then it's like, oh, they got matchmaking sites. They'll match you up with somebody. I get it. I guess before the interwebs, they used something else. I don't know. But I found the email, the webpage. I think I must have found it in like Zillions magazines for kids or some shit like that. Because like Highlights magazine didn't really do that. Zillions was like Highlights, but it was even more savvy and trendy. You know what I mean? From what I remember. I sure as fuck didn't get the website address from a video game magazine. I didn't get it from Sega Sages. I didn't get it from Nintendo Power. I didn't get it from Game Players. I didn't get it from Die Hard Gamer, Game Fan. I didn't get it from Electronic Gaming Monthly, etc. Mac User, Mac World. No, man. Maybe I could have got it from Mac World, but this was for kids. I'm pretty sure this website was for kids to find pen pals. It wasn't for adults to find pen. Adults don't want pen pals, as far as I know. Maybe adults are a little less insecure these days, but for an adult to admit that they want a pen pal, that sounds like some little kid shit. Back in the era when I was growing up, you know, because adults are supposed to be all about fucking and making money. And fucking you over and making more money. That's really what they're about. You know it's true. I found it! Jesus, man. What a mess. Well, I'll deal with it when I can. So, anyways, what about the email pen pal, JJ? It's traumatic. That's all. It's one of my early cyber traumas. Oh, that sounds great. Tell us all about it. Yeah, I know, me. I'll tell myself just to make sure I don't forget. I had a Macintosh, a Power Macintosh 8100 100 AV, like practically the nicest Mac a person could own. The most modern, fastest RISC processor, 601 power PC, made by the trinity of the IBM, Motorola, Apple marriage. Wow, right? A menage a trois. How kinky. Whatever, dude. How adult of you, JJ. You made a sex joke. I know. And it's a sophisticated one because it has a French word in it. Well, whatever, dude. Fucking the shit, fucking goddamn it. Where was I? Yeah, this computer was pretty nice. I'd already had a PC at that point. You know, and then I later acquired a laptop that I used on video games and more. That was made by a company called Austin Computers, and it was a Pentium 100, a Pentium Pro, I guess. I don't know. And so, yeah, the PC, the desktop PC that I had, I bought it out of Computer Shopper, pretty cheap. It was like $1,000 or something. It was I can't I think it was a Pentium. I don't think it was a 486. I think Pentiums were still pretty new at this point, and my mom knew some people, some hippie motherfuckers that some of them were a little less hippie. I mean, you know that community. It's like back then it was pretty much like oatmeal granola, flip flops, acoustic guitars, ale, and like peace and love or whatever, and smelling bad. That's what I got out of it. You know, the whole hippie community only exists for like one reason, and that's because when shit gets fucked up with democracy, you know, if you have like a hippie populace that is ready to assemble and unite like Voltron to protest or occupy, as the case may be, whatever the case may be, that makes the society stronger. That makes the people stronger. Oh, that is so much better. But now my back hurts because I've been standing here too long, rapping and ducking so you can see my face because my computer won't tilt anymore. All right, let's get comfy again. I can use a cigarette. So yeah, the hippie populace, blah blah blah. That's why they exist. Is because if all you do is sit around smoking pot, listening to Fish. Well, if somebody says, "Hey, we need to protest. Are you ready? Can you be there?" Oh yeah, man. Let me finish this joint. Okay, let's go. And that makes society stronger because that's one more body at the protest. And if there's only 10 people at the protest, it's not considered a real protest, okay? That's the way it was back then. I know this because I was involved with the local Native American community, like Mount Graham, and also the homeless community, and also the Tibetan Buddhist community. And, with the China Tibet stuff that was going on back then, it was kind of like, whoa, kind of heavy. And really, all that we ever did was, like, when I'd hang out with the Buddhist people, all they ever wanted to do was their ceremonial, type of things. Like their Mahakala worship or whatever. It's a little bit fancier than Zen Buddhism, They got more artwork, they got more stories, they got like mantras and stuff, as opposed to the Zen guys that are just like, let your thoughts float through your head like clouds in the sky when you meditate. So, I don't really like mantras because that feels like you're programming yourself. But hey, some people need to be programmed while others are already programmed, pre-programmed, right? Like the firmware is updated and good and everything. Bug free. I had some bug free firmware, and the only reason my firmware got corrupted was because of lots of tragedy and trauma and physical injury. And my firmware is still basically uncorrupted, but it communicates with parts of the system that are broken, and that confuses the firmware. My internal firmware, yeah, it gets confused trying to because it wants to do things, but it's like error, input, output, error, cannot access resource. It's like, yeah, my shoulder's a resource, go figure. Anyways, so I had that PC, and it was a frustrating, horrible experience. My mom's hippie friend was like running Mem Maker because I was having a lot of errors trying to run application software and Windows 3.11 itself. Why did I have 3.11? I don't know. I guess it was kind of like considered more robust than 3.1. I'm sure I could have done fine with 3.1. I probably would have done even better with like a Hewlett Packard Pavilion. I used to play with those at the Foley's department store at Elkhorn Mall. We had a friend there that was a salesperson, and it's like he wasn't a scam. He wasn't trying to capitalize on us. Like he could tell me and my mom were a family, and that we just needed good electronics at an affordable rate. Sometimes on layaway or on credit, and he was like ready to show us the best gear, most professional gear that they had, and was willing to let us know when it would be on sale. Now that's a friend, right? That's not a salesperson, that's a friend. But he was basically just an honest guy that was like the head salesperson of the Foley's, which later became Macy's um, department store there up on it was the second floor. That's where I got my Super VHS tape decks, my Toshiba Diomages that I used to make video games and more. Because when I got that Super VHS tape grant, I kind of needed a way to work with my SVHS tapes at home because I didn't have a car. I was like 12, 13 or something, and I wasn't even allowed to ride the bus yet. I didn't start that until I was like 14 or 15, a little bigger. But so yeah, man. The whole computer thing. It wasn't too fun with that first PC, and then when I eventually got rid of it, I don't even remember what happened to it. I think we must have returned it to the company that I got it from. Like I say, it was from Computer Shopper magazine. I'm like this tall, and I'm seeing. I used to hang out in the magazine section at the supermarket, so I could read the video game magazines, every single one of them. That's why I know all the names of the various publications. Probably tell you a lot off the top of my head, but I will digress because this is supposed to be about Sweden, isn't it? I don't know. I met somebody yesterday, I think it was, named Emily, and I couldn't call them by their name. That was the name of my Swedish pen pal that I met using my Power Macintosh 8100 100 AV that was like a $3,500 computer that my father got me because he fell over the railing of a building in Venice Beach, California, and really hurt his back. And he paid the price the rest of his life. But when the settlement finally happened, I guess his health was only worth $5,000. Seems like it should be worth a lot more. A person's health, their back is a very. I wonder what you think your back is worth. I wonder how much money you would get if you fell over the railing from the second story. It was like in between. You know how like staircases will go like they'll go up and then second story and then up and then third story. Yeah, so he was like halfway to the to the floor and halfway to the second story. So that was like 15 feet up in the air. It was like he was a pro goddamn wrestler. And luckily I didn't see it because I'd probably have post-traumatic stress flashbacks from it. But I do remember all the commotion from that day because like my mother, she was trying to protect me from all of it. But I did peek out the window, I peeked out the door, and I did see him splattered on the ground. It's like, and the rail was all like broken off, it's like dangling like a wire, because I was looking at it from a distance, and a handrail is really nothing that, you know, that thick, nothing that there's not much mass to it. It's just a handrail. It's like, you know, like that. There's not much to it, so it looks like a thread from a distance. Anyways, that was terrible, and that happened in like '87 or '88, and it took many years in court to reach a settlement. I don't know why it was so difficult. I don't know why law takes so much time because life happens quickly, you know? And like when your life is totally derailed, a lot of bad things can happen. You could die when your life is totally derailed and you're waiting. That's the reason why I think J.G. Wentworth has so many TV commercials. If you need an annuity, call 887 cash now. 877 cash now. 877 cash now. Hey, do you have a settlement or an annuity or an inheritance? Well, call us at J.G. Wentworth and we'll get you your cash now. Why wait? Because at J.G. Wentworth, you call 877 cash now. And, you know, I basically hate those commercials because it seems like, you know, they use opera music, which is great, but at the same time, it seems kind of snooty and hoity-toity. Like, oh, I'll bet this company has lots of money. I'll bet they don't go to rock shows. The owner, I'll bet Mr. Wentworth or whomever never goes to rock shows. They just go to opera. That's why these commercials have opera. How snooty and hoity-toity. And if you've got a company where you lend money to people in advance, you know, you must have a lot of money, which makes me want to hate him. But at the same time, I really wish my parents would have called J.G. Wentworth back in the late 80s when we were waiting around, trying to build a career for me, like that McDonald's commercial, you know? I could have done other commercials if we didn't, like, totally bankrupt my mother's credit cards. Anyhow, yeah, it took like 7 years or 8 years for the settlement, and that's all it was 5,000. I guess it took so long because the apartment complex where we lived must have had really good lawyers or really good insurance or something because the settlement was never high enough. I think the original initial offer was like 3,000 for my father's health. Look, I know the guy's an unemployed musician, but he was a fucking genius that was fluent in multiple languages, and he was trying to help me get a career as some kind of a child star. I don't know. I was okay with the idea. I've always had a really good memory. Memorizing scripts like a fucking screenplay, that's trivially easy. I did that when I was 4 years old for fun. I did that for like the Voltron opening. It's like that, and the Voltron assemble, blah blah blah, and then they're talking about Zarkon and the whole 9 yards. I got it on a cassette tape. You can hear it. You must be. And it sounds like the kid is reading it or something, but I couldn't read yet. I was still fucking around with my speak and spell, speak and math, speak and read, you know, combo, and just like trying to wrap my head around it all. So I definitely didn't read it. It was definitely memorized, and it was definitely verbatim because I used to watch that tape every day. Could you imagine spending a month watching the same video with the same monologue intro thing with a narrator? Like, you're going to memorize it too. It's just rote memorization. Granted, I guess I got good at that at an early age. And so it was like no big deal, I suppose. That's why I could do video games and more, and the whole episode was edited on tape, but I could announce over it because I knew what was going to be coming up next. Sometimes I used notes, or I at least had notes, so I could feel confident. Like if I lost my place, I could reference the notes. But ultimately, what a sacrifice. I can't believe the day that he walked in, I was like in my little twin bed or whatever, like a kid has. It's like that wide, you know, like I think it's called a twin. I think a double is bigger, right? It's like the smallest one, a twin. I'm just sitting there in my bed, like, Indian style, cross-legged, you know, like as if I'm meditating in a lotus position, but not quite with my feet up on top of my knees. That's a real lotus position. Anyways, I was just doing some homework, and like he walks in, and he literally has the bills fanned out like a fan, that you like cool yourself down with. Which, if you go outside right now, you're gonna need one. It's really hot. Anyways, he takes these bills, $100 bills, fanned out, flared out, slams them down right on the book, my homework book, my textbook. Like it slams it down, just like damn. And I kind of like look up, huh? What's this? And he's like, have your computer, mijo. And I'm just like, huh? What computer? I don't have a computer. He's like, don't you want a computer? I'm like, I do. I want a Power Mac 8100 100 AV. I hear that the 110 is going to be available soon, but right now the 100 is the top of the line, you know. And then I said, but to be honest, I'd be happy with a 6100 or a 7100. I think I could still edit video on it as long as it's an AV model, you know. It came with a crappy little AV card, but the crappy little AV card was basically fantastic. It was basically good enough. But I never realized how much hard drive space video takes up. So, like, it came with 1 gigabyte of hard drive. So, I was never able to make that much video, and it was never that high res. But that's okay. It was still fantastic to have it. Really, just an excellent machine. It came with System 753, and I still have that disc. Anyways, you can download it from, like, if you really want to know the experience, you can still get System 753, the disc that would come with the Power Macs, from, like, what, the Macintosh Garden or Orchard or whatever they call it. Anyway, and so what? Well, you know, I wanted it to make video. Ultimately, it wasn't good enough. But I figured, hey, I'm not going to let this thing go to waste. Like, there's other things, aren't there? I don't know. Well, I found out. I went to the Washington University Lubac archive. I also went to, like, Walnut Creek CD-ROM.com, and I would download as much shareware as I could, trying to see what the world had to offer me as a Mac user. I'd already been subscribed to Mac User Magazine. I think I got a Mac World subscription at some point, but at first I was a Mac User Magazine subscriber. I guess I had a good deal. I found a card with a little insert, the postcard. Quite affordable. It's like $15 a year or something. A lot cheaper than the newsstand cover price. And I'm just like reading that, hearing about different shareware I should be accessing. I also had a subscription to The Net, which is a magazine that used to come with a CD-ROM. And the CD-ROM contained shit tons of shareware as well. So it's like I didn't even have to go to the FTP archives, which was nice back then, on my Supra 28.8 kbps modem. It wasn't like, it was basically top of the goddamn line, but it still sucked. It's like 3K per second. It's like, and I had the best internet around, the StarNet. That was like better than PrimeNet. That was better than Netcom. Definitely way better than Juno. That shit's free. That's like net zero. Anyways, and fuck the online services. I tried AOL and CompuServe, and I think I was getting ready to try Prodigy, and I was like, this is all garbage. I'm just gonna get the internet because like AOL had like a web browser, and that was supposed to be the internet. But I kept hearing about things like Internet Relay Chat and Usenet news groups, and I'd already had experience with Gopher and Anarchy because I used to hang out with this guy named Bob McQuaid. He had a TV show. He was a retiree, really nice guy, kind of weird. I mean, he wasn't weird. I mean, he was weird looking. He had like those varicose kind of looking purpley veins. You know, he was basically just a gross old guy, but he was a really, 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 really nice, honest, and helpful person. He used to have a computer lab in like this. I wouldn't call it a guest house. It was almost like a greenhouse that had been converted into like a computer laboratory setup. And that's where I got to use a 2400 baud modem to toy around with things like IRC news group. And I was mostly using the Lynx web browser, LYNX, because LINKS and LINKS2 and ELINKS, yeah, all those hadn't been invented yet. So it was basically LYNX or nothing, which was great because it was vulnerable to an exploit. It had I read about this on, I think I fucking stumbled upon it on BugTrack, insecure.org, Theodore Nmap. I found out about that and found out about BugTrack and found out about Links Download. Why don't you Google that and tell me all about it? It was basically a URL you could type into Links that would jailbreak you into a shell. It would basically kill the program, essentially. I think it would background the process, actually, if I recall correctly. And not only did it work on Unix systems, it worked on VAX VMS systems, too. You ever play around on those? Yeah? Yeah? You ever do that setproctrib? What is it? Setproctrib analyze system? It's like the easiest way to get root ever if it ever works. And it used to work all the time back then. Anyways, so naturally, once I had shell access, I wanted to use Telnet to Telnet all over the world to every university and public library I could to see what they had to offer me. Because I realized very quickly that having shell access on a Unix system was fantastic because you could ascertain what was available other than Linux, you know. And I had nothing until my father got me that Power Mac, that PC that I had at first that was worthless. I never did one useful thing with it. I think maybe I played like some solitaire. I hate solitaire. I fucking hate that game. And the fact that Windows 10 comes with it makes me want to vomit. I uninstall that first. Anyways, yeah, computers. It's a lifestyle, right? Whatever, man, maybe. Especially when you're poor, kind of have to make it your lifestyle. So I get my Mac and I find, the pen pal resources. And when I get my friend Emily in Sweden, she had a swipnet.ce, mbox.swipnet.ce. And no, I haven't fucking found any documents. This isn't like, dude, when I tell you what happened, you'll probably cry for me. I'll tell you, don't cry for me, Argentina, but not today. You'll probably want to cry for me. Here, I made friends with Emily, and Emily was twins. She was the nice twin. My pen pal was the nice twin. Her her sister, what I can't even remember her name. You know, I I I had like a black and white photo of them together. It was like a school photo, like from picture day, and they were identical twins. But apparently, Emily's sister was a bit more rambunctious, troublemaker, a little more outgoing. You know, the type of person that usually becomes a rock star. You notice rock stars are always troublemakers, and they're usually real outgoing. They're not really introverts. They're not too square, and they're not too introvert. Yeah, me and Emily were basically the square introvert types because it's one. I needed to be. I was like a young flower that needed to be watered. I was really underdeveloped in terms of my social ability skills. I was shy as fuck. I'd had a lot of diseases. I told you about my hip problems. So, like, anyways, I'm trying to be outgoing. I make myself a really good pen pal that I'm emailing now on a daily basis. The problem with the mbox.swipnet.ce was that it was basically, I think it was a free net, which was like a popular thing back then. Like computer BBSs used to dominate the landscape, and I guess there were varying network infrastructures that were being implemented. I think FidoNet was like supposed to be like a kind of like an internet, something that's bigger than your city. A BBS is usually limited to your city, you know. So it's like its own little island, But if you can connect to other islands, all of a sudden it's no longer like you're desolate, stranded, like some kind of a castaway. Anyways, yeah, and I think FidoNet or UUNet, there was some varying like networks, but ultimately they had all kind of faded away in favor of TCP/IP based internet communications because of the fault toleranceness of the TCP/IP, network implementation. It's like back then, if you had Windows 95 or 98, I don't even think, I think I got my Mac in 94. So I remember when 95 hit, it was a pretty big deal, but I could have given a fuck. I was like, fuck Windows. That shit sucked. I didn't have any fun with that. And I even knew a little bit about DOS from hanging out at like Bob McQuaid's. His computers were so old. They were not 386. They were like ATXTs, I think is what they're called. It's kind of like, I think an IBM PS2 was like an ATXT. And of course, they got upgraded as you know, the manufacturers, like Intel, when Intel released the 386 or the 486, like, well, anyways, Bob was a nice guy, but he wasn't rich. So he shared what he could and let us hang out in the lab as long as we wanted on the scheduled days, the pre-designated. And he had like lab techs, I think it was a husband and a wife that were just like total geeks, just like total BBSers, total dorks, and they were just super helpful. In retrospect, I don't know if I would call them nice, because though they would smile and though they were helpful, they seemed like they could have been on the spectrum. Like they almost spent too much fucking time on the computer and not enough time with other people. You know? It can happen. It's definitely nerdy to be on the spectrum. But I don't know anything about that because I don't suffer from it. I'm more of an ADD, PTSD kind of guy. Anyhow, what about it? The swipnet.ce had these email addresses that were completely nonsensical. Kind of like a CompuServe email address. CompuServe email addresses were a long string of numbers with like a dot placed in there, almost like an IP address. And at CompuServe.net or whatever. And that's like what you would get with the SwiftNet. It was like mbox 4352 at something like that. Nothing you'd ever remember. It's a good thing you have a contacts list and an inbox, and you can reply to your messages, right? Because who's ever going to remember an email address like that? Well, that's a real pity. Because me and her were emailing on a daily basis, just talking about school and life. She was usually telling me about the crazy shit her sister was doing, whatever the fuck her name was. I'll probably remember it someday. You know, I thought Emily was cool. I didn't give a fuck about her sister. Although, I did think the idea of if I ever got to go to Sweden and hang out with them, I'm like, wow, that would be amazing. I've never had twins for friends. That's probably trippy as fuck. Probably hot. Yeah, she was hot, dude. Like, you know, a future beauty queen. Blonde hair, blue eyed, Swedish girl. Totally into me. Like her one pen pal, email pen. I think she had to get a pen pal for school. And they linked me up with her. I didn't need, and I was homeschooled. I think I know I was. So yeah, I hadn't been to Pep Tech yet, the charter school. So I must have been 13. And anyways, what happened is my Mac got B-tree leave errors. If you've ever had B-tree leave errors, well, you better run Norton Disk Doctor immediately before you lose your whole system. Of course, I didn't know what Norton Disk Doctor was yet. That was part of the Norton Utilities software suite, which came with programs such as Speed Disk, which was like a defrag application utility. And then there was Disk Doctor, which was kind of like a run-of-the-mill scan disk or check disk for Macs. Okay, because Mac file systems have always been different. FAT32, that didn't exist, I don't think. I think it was FAT16, And that was way different from the HFS. Pretty sure that's what it was, right? Because HFS Plus, we didn't get that till OS 10, right? So, yeah, way different. And these B-tree leave errors completely ruined my system. But I didn't know what was happening at first. You see, my icons, I was a sloppy little kid back then, too. Have you ever watched my streams and seen my desktop, how there's like a million files? Yeah, I do that because I used to try to clean my desktop. I have many interests, and I like to download things in an effort to pursue my interests. And you see, the thing is, when your desktop gets cluttered like that, it makes you a little bit ADD. So you're just like, wait, what did I sit down at the computer for? I can't remember. So I decided to come up with a method where I would make a folder called like the new desktop folder, and I would put all my desktop files in there, and then I'd put that in like my user directory, and I'd say, yeah, I'll sort that stuff later. And here I am, fucking 30 years later, and I still have hard drives with new desktop data folders, that I haven't sorted yet. Anyways. So these files that were on my desktop all over the place and folders started disappearing. Like a ghost, like a phantom, or maybe like a kidnapped person. My stuff just started disappearing. And at first I wasn't sure. I thought that maybe I'd like tried to clean my desktop and maybe I'd just misplaced the file. Like I was like, maybe I filed it away somewhere else. But I would use like the Macintosh Find. You go to like the file. Let's see, I guess it could be over there, but my right arm isn't that. I'm not gonna do that for you. So for myself, this is my journal, and I'm not talking to him. But fucking hell, man, that was like, what's happening? My whole world is becoming unraveled. It's unraveling before me. My world is unraveling before me as I'm losing these files and folders that I had to spend a lot of time downloading because of my slow modem. Like everybody had that. Everybody spent a lot of time to download data. It wasn't fast. That's why nobody wanted to be on the internet. And why whenever anybody hears bing, bing, bong, they go, oh no, oh, let's change the channel. I don't want to hear that ever again. Yeah, it's so slow, right? And I was poor because I'm a kid, and my parents are poor. Their marriage is failing. They're getting ready to divorce. I got nothing, but my mom had a hippie friend, and this other hippie friend, he decided to cough up $70 so I could take my Mac to Simutech. I believe that's where it went. This wasn't the Simutech up at Craycroft and Fort Lowell. This was the Simutech over at Broadway and Craycroft, where there's like a game store, video game store now, and there's like a FedEx that used to be a Kinko's, and like this building that used to be a Toys R Us, and there's like a Cox Cable internet sales. That's across the street. Anyways, so naturally, when we get into the computer techs at the shop, the fix it up shop, they quickly ran Norton Disk Doctor and discovered the problem was B-tree leave errors. So we didn't have to wait very long to find out that there was nothing they could do, and that pretty soon my system was gonna be hosed, and that they could back it up for me if I had a disk that they could copy the data to, but I didn't. I was in the process of acquiring this SCSI 1 gigabyte external disk made by a company called APS, and like I didn't have it yet. I've been looking in the catalogs. Like Tiger Direct was one of the more popular computer catalogs to read back then. And like I think I had a few other Mac ones that I was like on the mailing list for, and it was too late, man. I lost everything, including my Eudora email box. I never got to talk to Emily ever again. And I tried to use file recovery software. I got myself a copy of Norton Utilities. That was my consolation prize. I got the free $70, checkup. And then when they told us what happened, it's like, look, you're going to need a copy of Norton Utilities. Every Mac user has this, because every Mac user is going to get the B-tree leave errors at some point, because they don't make these things right. They just suck. Somebody needs to fix the bug, but nobody's done it yet. People are supposed to beta test software. They're called bug testers, beta testers, bug hunters, and they're supposed to make sure that stuff doesn't exist. And, when I met that person at Walmart yesterday that was really helpful, it was obviously a dude. I don't know if it was like a girl that had become a dude or a dude that was thinking of becoming a girl, but the name tag said Emily, and it still struck a nerve, and I just couldn't call them by their name. And they were all smiles until I finally said, oh, okay, I'll check at the gas station for Sprite Chill. Thanks for helping me find the whipping cream. Have a good day. And they were just like, oh yeah, sorry, we don't have the Sprite Chill. Mm. And I mean, like, I don't think that they were that sad. I think they saw me look at their name tag. I think they were expecting me to call them Emily, and they were let down. I didn't. And also, it was strange because it was a dude, and I was thinking, is that the right name tag? I don't know if I should do this. I mean, I think in this day and age, people are so fucking square, they're not going to accidentally put on the wrong name tag. That's like something a Gen Xer would have done as a prank. It's like, anyways, I'm all fucked up in the head. That's what I'm telling you. And that's not even a big deal. That's like nothing. That's just some minimal trauma that I'm still affected by. It's nothing. Losing my whole computer system and all the work that I'd done for like a year and all the friends I'd made and all the communications and just losing it all like somebody ransomwared me. You know, it's like I got over it and I just focused on video games and more and other things. But, you know, it's like when the rollover happened in 2003, that's just another thing I had to get over. And it's just like, everything you know can go away in the blink of an eye. It can. You gotta always be ready for that. All right,